The national debt crisis is spiraling out of control. Not only that, consumer credit card debt is climbing like never before. People cannot pay their bills. Well, what is that doing? That's actually causing damage to our dollar. Because if we keep on spending money that we don't have, how can we ever pay it back? There's a lot of people that think that, automatically it's just going to be covered up and debt's not real and it's going to keep on being printed away, which means for uber inflation. Can we talk Zimbabwe? Can we talk Argentina? Can we talk Venezuela? Can we talk these places that have skyrocketing inflation and where they're literally coming with a wheelbarrow full of money to buy just the simplest things such as bread? Millions of dollars for bread. That's what we will see if we keep on furthering this debt spiral. Needless to say, our banks are failing, all because of debt. It's amazing when people say, and this is something that your grandmother probably said, you can't spend money you don't have. However, we as personal Americans and our government is doing just that. Let's jump into it today and how this spiraling out of control is going to cause a colossal collapse if we don't pay attention to what's going on. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. Look how foggy it is. It is unbelievable. Welcome to South Mississippi in the humidity that we have. If you're new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up if you like the content. Share this to your friends because our goal is to grow a group of individuals who wants a common sense approach and a wisdom-seeking, thought-provoking way of doing research to say, you know what? I see there's a problem and we need to do what we can to fix it and to take care of our families. I can't fix the world's debt, but I can fix my own personal self and my own personal situation so that way I can take care of my family. That's what we want. Now let's jump into the story of the day. Two things that has really come out, and it's come from the WEF, which is someone is kind of saying, okay, let me show you, we're going to say the quiet parts out loud, but then also let's talk about the consumer debt and how it affects you because people are not paying their bills anymore, which is causing bank issues. So the end of the dollar may be happening quicker than we expected, not because the dollar is getting hurt by another currency. We hurt ourselves. I said this a few videos ago. The problem with the dollar is because we keep doing the damage to it. So it's like we're not in competition but with another currency that's that strong. I mean, BRICS is coming up, yes, and all that, but ultimately we're the ones causing the damage to our own dollar. Now let's talk about how globalists like this. There's a story shared by Wide Awake Media. It said, Governor of the Central Bank of Bahrain spoke at WEF. The transition of predominantly digital with little physical cash and fully digital was really accelerated by 2020 by the outbreak. It allowed them to speed up what was going on. With the speeding up of what was going on, what it did was accelerate the fact that the dollar may be the last thing that they're worried about. Remember, they don't actually have to have the dollar. If they have the dollar, that means you still kind of have a decentralized way of spending money, meaning it's between you and someone else. But the fact is, if they can destroy the dollar, they're helping themselves two ways. They're allowing everything to move to a digitized form of currency. I think that's why they're pre-programming you with crypto, by the way. But then at the same time, they're not only getting you to a surveilled dollar system, because that means it's not technically your money anymore. It's their money. You're just borrowing, almost like a rent your own money kind of situation. So you're working really for this digitized footprint. And secondly, when the dollar falters, guess what happens? They can restructure the debt like we're talking about. They can restructure what the debt is actually worth if they have no dollars. Yes, will this cause a major collapse to a lot of other parts in the globe? Yes. But what it will do is help America restructure debt. That is not a good thing, because then I'm scared we'll see the ramifications of surveilled money, the ramifications of people being broke because they had cash and all of a sudden it's worth nothing now. So there's a lot of problems with that, but I think that that's why the WEF and how they have pushed for digitized currency, because it's going to help the U.S. currency basically go to a restructuring of debt and also of a surveilled version of money, which could be very detrimental for what you're purchasing. It literally means they will control what you're purchasing and what you're buying. Now, let's also talk about the fact of the personal side. Because of that, and because Americans tend to just want what they want instead of get what they need, we still are spending. When people complain about the fact that the higher prices of homes are bad and we shouldn't buy, people are still buying. When people complain about the fact that the truck is $90-something thousand, or the new vehicle, the new Suburban, is $85,000 or $90,000, instead of just complaining about it and leaving it alone, you go buy it. Well, that actually helps move them right in the right direction, because you're wanting something you can't afford, which is causing for you to have more debt. When you pay that kind of money for those things, it leaves less money for you to have to buy the goods that you're needing. So therefore, right now, over $1 trillion worth of credit card debt. The average household from different generations are anywhere from $3,000 to $9,000 worth of credit card debt. You will never climb out of some of these holes if you're only paying the minimums. You will never climb out of these holes if you keep buying stuff out of wants instead of needs. So really, they want you to keep spending. Because remember, our whole economy is ran by consumers going in debt and buying things they probably should not buy. It allows the whole market, the whole economy to keep on going. Instead of it being a currency-based or a money-based economy, it is a debt-based economy. You know why they're pushing these wars? Because then they can keep on printing money to then turn around and funnel right back to certain people to then expand to keep spending more dollars. The more billions that they give somewhere else, those dollars are floating around. And right now, while America has power, that currency is making the world go around. But when they want to pull the plug, or when all of a sudden they dig a hole that they can't get out of, that's when you'll see the crash of the dollar. New money comes in with digitized currency. It will collapse a lot of different governments, but then America is so strong to where America would just say, well, you know what, we've got this digitized currency we've been dealing with for a long time, and I know we've been buying gold, so this will help us bring it back. And so therefore, because of powerful military, because the fact that we're the ones that pretty much destroyed the economy, we came up with a new style digital currency. We are now restructuring our debt. We're now becoming, again, a world power, and we are now knowing and surveilling not only Americans, but everyone in the world when they all of a sudden have to buy into the same system. Digital money is a dangerous spot. And the fact that we are spending more than we should is making our debt go higher, which is making us more prone to say, please bring it in because I need to restructure my debt. Please bring it in because I have no cash. Please bring it in. I'm willing to give you all my cash for that digital currency. It's all a ploy, it's all a plan. The more debt that you pile up, the more you're going to be right on board to grab right on into this whole system. It's kind of like student loan debts. The more you send your kids to college and get indoctrinated, the more they believe this whole system of socialism or this whole government down system is good, the more they'll believe, because guess what? The government is helping pay their student loans or paying their student loans off. So they're always going to be indebted to this government style of top-down leadership, to where they pass down this money from the government and make sure all the people are safe. It almost reminds you of a UBI kind of thing. I think that's exactly what we're getting to, and we're helping it because we're allowing our debts to just really consume us instead of actually trying to get on a balanced budget. Several comments yesterday on the video I made about how dangerous we are in a 24-hour period. There was one part I said that, we need to make sure that we're paying off debts. You'd be surprised how many people came across and said, why would we pay off debts? They're already believing the system. Why pay them off when all of a sudden the money is not worth anything, and all of a sudden if they restructure it, our debts could be paid off anyways and we could trade it in. Even on someone who I would consider a very conservative area, and a lot of people that watch us would be freedom-minded, conservative-minded, libertarian-minded, still we're saying, what's the point in paying off debts if we're going to see a crash or a reset anyway? That could be very dangerous that we have that mindset, because then we're all automatically getting pre-programmed for the government to step in and help us and to be our superhero. To go along with that, because we're not able to pay our debts, because we see our government doing this, because we want what we want and don't get what we need, we tend to miss out on paying our bills. We're actually upside down in our cars, our homes, and of course our credit cards and unsecured debt. What does that do? We think, oh, it just hurts us, but we can just keep paying the minimums, we'll be okay. We're actually killing our banks. Our banks are not having enough money to make it. So you're seeing these collapse. You're seeing the colossal collapse. You're seeing the collapse of these banks. So what happens then? The regional banks, the smaller banks that cannot control the fact of debt and having enough deposits to come in to cover the debt and to make sure that they're liquid and have enough assets, guess what happens? They get turned around and bought out or closed down by the Fed or by bigger banks. Bigger banks turn around and buy them on a fire sale, and boom, there you have it. Now you are under one monster bank or 2 or 3 or 4 monster banks. Like in America, we have 4 or 5 big players, and that's it. Then you have the Fed, who is made up of those same banks, and then you have the fact that they're all believing in the system of this centralized digital currency. Well, that helps the dollar go ahead and cease to exist. Remember this, we call CBDC. BDCs, which are where banks basically transact amongst themselves, they don't have all that cash. It's still digitized. They have used digitized currency a long time. The problem is we're encapsulating now and bringing in the centralized part, which makes it where your money is controlled based on what they say. It's not the fact that digital money has not been floating around. Think of how you do with credit cards and transfer money. They're not taking your $5,000 from this account and just walking it over to another account. No, it's digitized. So we've already been programmed to it, and the banks have already done it. The problem we have to have is this: if they take the dollar away, then they're centralizing that, and they're making it where they control the movement of dollars. Not you control it to tell where it goes, and then the digitized version of it goes. It's they control how much you can get, what they say you can utilize it for, and what they say you can't utilize it for. So the fall of the dollar is not the fact of just us trying to implode it. It's not the fact of us borrowing too much and all of a sudden we're gonna see a reset. It's the fact that maybe the bigger players that beat actually like what's going on, and the destruction of a dollar, even though they try to act like they're trying to conserve the dollar and help the dollar, they actually may be harming it on purpose. Remember, we can't stop those things from happening. We can't stop cash from being taken away, because we're just simple old Americans. We should have a say, but we don't, because our elected officials are not really representing us. They're representing the special interests and the bigger players. But what we can do is we can be smart on our end. Things that money can buy that can bring value to yourself. Again, the broken record situation here and the threadbare cliche. I cannot eat the dollar, but I can eat bread. I cannot always control what the dollar buys, and if they take the dollar away, then I'm kind of stuck with centralized digital currency, especially if you're on pensions or retirements or Social Security. That's how it's going to come in. So why don't we start preparing now to start buying things that could benefit us now? Getting out of debt is important, because remember, if all of a sudden they hold that debt over your head, or they hold the fact of all this cash over your head, or they hold the fact of all your bank assets over your head, then you're going to bend down to them, because they have all the cards. It's like you're playing spades and they have all the trump cards and spade cards. You are left with nothing. So you have to remember, if you're going to play the game, they own the game board. It's time for us to make sure that we're making wise decisions before it gets to that point. If we see the dollars crashing, why don't we figure out ways to make sure that we're mitigating the risk for us personally? There was a story that came out that said most Americans cannot pay even their mortgages anymore. So did you buy too much of a house? Then let's go ahead and get rid of it. The last thing we want to do is have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt over our head. Now, do you need a house? Should you have a house? Yes, I hope that you can have a house one day. But maybe you can co-op a piece of land, maybe you can co-op a house, or buy a smaller house, because you may be in too much of a house. Or were you one of the ones who complained about the vehicles, but you still bought them? It may be time to sell it. Now, if you're upside down in it, that's a problem. But there may be ways that you can try to start restructuring your own personal debt before you get to that point to realize you're in debt up to your eyeballs, to where then you are looking for the government to come in and give you the handout or give you the help. This is how it's going to happen. And this is why I'm saying get more independent. I may be completely wrong, but they're going to say, okay, for every dollar you have in the bank, for every cash dollar you have in your safe, we're going to give you a credit of $2 or $1.50 or $3 in this CBDC. People are going to line up for that, because they're going to say, well, I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. I know money's not worth anything and I need to live. So if I can change my dollar out to something that's worth $2, then I'm going to do it. I don't matter if I believe, forget the principles now, I need the money. And so therefore, your dependency to pay your debts, your dependency on the fact that you need that paycheck coming in, the dependency of knowing that you do not have sustainability or independence, makes you more opportunistic to say, I'm going to buy into this CBDC. You heard what WEF said, and again, the central banks are saying 98% of central banks are on the plan. 5 big banks really represent the Fed here, which is our biggest banks that believe in the system of digitized currency. And then on top of that, the government needs restructuring. The government needs to get rid of all these dollars. The government needs you to be surveilled and know what you're purchasing. It's more control. So all the cards are stacking up against you. Well, if you're putting yourself in piles of debt, you're still buying wants instead of needs, you still have credit cards you're using all the time, then you are going to be more opportunistic to jump on the bandwagon with the leadership to say, I need that. I need that CBDC because it's going to give me more than what I've got with my dollars. If I've got $10,000 in the bank and they can double it to $20,000, I'm going to do it. If I have $50,000 worth of debt and I'm willing to say I got $25,000 cash and they can solve it by paying that off because I'm moving to CBDC, they're going to use that incentive to do that. You know how they tried that and how I know it's going to work? Look at what they did during 2020. They offered you free food, they offered you free money, they offered you cash, they offered you all this stuff, and people lined up for it. It's the same situation. It was all a predictive programming to see, here's how it's going to happen, and you're willing to jump right in line like sheep to the slaughter. Only way to solve this is, first of all, we need better leadership. That's something that one vote really can't change. I'm sorry. I think we all should vote, and I think we should all make sure our congressmen hear our thoughts. That's the whole point. They're supposed to represent us. I'm sorry. I think that's falling on deaf ears. So then it comes back to you. Remember, America was established by just freedom patriots. It was established by people who just loved being left alone, to be honest with you. It was the fact that they wanted to quit paying taxes. They did not want to be, they didn't want to have overlords, and that's exactly what system we're in more and more and deeper and deeper. So now it's time to grow up a little bit. We got to realize, quit spending money that we don't have. We have to realize we have to build that independence. And people say, how do I do that? I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Look, I'm telling you, you've got to get out and find another job. I'm sorry. You know why we have a strong job market right now, quote unquote strong job market? And it's not really that strong, but the strongest numbers that have come out is based on the fact that people are having to get part-time jobs. At least they're doing that, and at least they're trying to build a little bit extra money. Inflation and interest is basically a tax on the middle class. So therefore, you have to fight against that by trying to do all you can to keep that independence. The more you become dependent on the system, the more you become dependent on debt, the more you become dependent on the government to help you out. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. If we don't realize that, then we're going to be in a bigger pickle than we thought. Now, here's another thing. No matter how much we want the dollar to make it, no matter how much we want to be independent, there's times that we're still going to have to depend on others. This is where it comes down to spiritual help too. We're seeing in several countries where it's faltering, and there's faltering even more. There's more problems and more problems happening with the West. And then we see in Argentina a major change where there's things changing for the good. El Salvador, things changing for the good. They're getting crime off the street. They're fixing their dollars. They're fixing their currency, excuse me. So there is hope, but we have to put it in the right people. But until then, we have to put it spiritually and say, you know what? I've got to ground myself and know that it's going to be okay. Now the question is, have you taught that to your children? Have you taught wise principles and core values to your children? Because they're growing up in a worse world than what you're growing up in. If we're going to be the generation that's got to go through another depression, if we're going to be the generation that has to go through a world war, if we're the generation that's have to go through a major setback with, consolidating and resets, are your kids going to be strong coming out of it? That all comes down to you and leading your family. That all comes down to you having a spiritual groundedness. So can we fix all the problems? No. But if we can go through this valley, then hopefully our kids will have a mountaintop experience, all because we were willing to fight the fight. So here's my challenge to you. The dollar is looking bad. And it's actually looking bad and spiraling out of control because of our overlords and regulatory bodies. We know that. But we're not doing anything to help it because we're spending money that we don't have either. So it's making us more dependent on whatever they give us. It's almost like we have no food as fish, and we're looking for them to throw a worm to us, hooked to a hook. That's actually on a fishing pole, hooked to a hook. So then we will take it hook, line, and sinker and get pulled out. Because they fed us, we're willing to get caught. Do you get what I'm saying? If we want to keep this same dependency on debt and dependency on a system, then therefore they know they've got you. That's where you've got to break away. You hear, quote unquote, break away from the matrix. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have to ground yourself in faith, ground yourself in independence, ground yourself in sustainability, and yes, that means you may miss out on the newest vehicles. You're literally sitting on a 1997 truck right now as I film this. I could have bought another truck, but why when this one still works? I want a newer truck, but it doesn't justify a need. So could I have went and bought a $90,000 truck? and been in debt up to my eyeballs like everybody else? Sure could. Would it have been nice to drive around? Sure could. But then I'm in debt, and I'm a slave to the lender. And then I'm dependent on a system that's willing to throw a hook and not feed me, but to snag me and take me away and put me in the new pond, the new system, and something that they want you to be a part of. So your dependency on debt, your dependency on the fact that you're a slave to the lender, makes you more dependent on your overlords instead of being independent and sustainable. And the dollar will crash. We know that. It's coming. So then let's be wise now. And I've been saying this for years now, but let's be wise now and let's start making preparations for that, where our focus is not on debt and the dollar, it's on assets, goods, and taking care of our family and having that sustainability that so many people preach against. Being radical now is just owning a farm, homeschooling your children, having a cow that you can slaughter yourself, and having some animals like chickens to give you eggs. Somehow that becomes radical. Well, I'm challenging you to do just that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading.